Property damage is also not violence, and corporations are not people. You're bringing up one of my favorite subjects, so let's talk about it for a second. So I agree that property damage is not obligatorily violence. I think there are instances where destruction of property is violence. The oppressor can use property damage as a form of violence, absolutely. An example would be the KKK burning black churches in the South. Another example would be an enraged parent breaking a child's toy, right? Those in power can wield destruction of property as a form of violence on large and small scales. But when we're talking about an oppressed group engaging in vandalism or destruction of property, this is something that I personally do not feel is violence. And I get pushback from other nonviolent organizers on that. And of course, I obviously agree that corporations are not people. We need to overturn Citizens United. Our elected representatives should represent us, not corporations, not the billionaire class, us the people. But getting back to this question of whether property damage is violence or not, I have always held the position that property damage, vandalism may not be violence, but that also doesn't mean that it is a strategic choice. And last year I read a book called This Is an Uprising by Mark Engler and Paul Engler. A+, do recommend. Great read. And it kind of helped me better assess this conflicted position that I hold around vandalism. Because I look at those French farmers dumping their truckloads of manure in front of the government buildings, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's what I want to see. In the US, you'll get slapped in handcuffs. You'll get charged for that. Absolutely. And likewise, in the United States, the minute you start breaking windows, the minute you start rocking cars, whatever, they're going to call it a riot. And they're going to delegitimize your protest. They're going to say you're out of control, you're violent. They're going to probably say a bunch of racist shit about your group of organizers. And the law enforcement is going to target any of the non-white folks in your group, like immediately. The minute anybody, I don't care if it's some white kid, right, in his little black bloc outfit that breaks a window. The second they do that, then law enforcement is going to justify their violence against any of the black and brown people in your group. So it's well and good to have your high and mighty philosophical position of like destruction of property is not violence, but how does law enforcement view it? What are the risks to the people that you organize with? Because when we think about organizing in our affinity group or in our greater grassroots orgs, we're at a protest, we're at some kind of event. Our philosophy has got to be that we keep each other safe and we don't engage in acts that are potentially acts of civil disobedience, etc., where we are knowingly going to expose people in our group who are more vulnerable, who are more at risk to violence from the state. If they didn't consent to a protest where you're going to be doing shit like this, then you don't drag them into that. Don't do that to the people in your group. So that's a big part of why you're not going to see me engaging in any of this at a protest, because the folks that I organize with are not going to do this. And the second reason is because if you choose to engage in civil disobedience, you are making a conscious choice to highlight the injustice of a law by choosing to voluntarily break that law and get arrested, or you are trying to highlight the injustice of the system, of the government, by breaking a law and getting arrested. It has to be a sacrifice that is worth it. It has to be a strategic choice. The government wants us emotional, out of control, and making non-strategic decisions, acting impulsively, because they can leverage that against us. That's why they want us all wound up. That's why ICE is constantly trying to escalate, not de-escalate. They're trying to get you to do anything that they can then say is assault, or they can then say is anything they can charge you with. They're trying to get you emotionally escalated so they can manipulate you into breaking the law. That's different than civil disobedience, where you are making conscious choices around things that might include property destruction in order to advance your cause. If you get real pissed and you just start smashing shit, it's likely not going to help you. It's likely not going to further the cause. And we are not in this to indulge our emotions. We're not in this to vent our rage. We are in this to stop the fascists. And so that requires a significant level of self-control, self-discipline. That's why so many people, I know a lot of my friends don't like it, that so many of our elected officials say don't take the bait. I think that that's a really good and important thing to say. They want us all spun up. They want us all spun up because then they can manipulate us. And we are not giving them any victories, including victories over our rational mind and our emotions. And this is where This Is an Uprising really kind of helped me crystallize my thoughts on the subject. Let me read this short passage to you. When it comes to questions of whether social movements should use violent tactics, the tradition of civil resistance takes a different stand from what many outsiders might expect. Pacifists have long argued back and forth with defenders of revolutionary violence about the morality of using violent methods to advance political ends. Likewise, the advocates of sabotage and property destruction commonly argue that these tactics should not be considered violent because they target inanimate objects and are not designed to cause physical harm to people. For activists using strategic nonviolence, these exchanges are beside the point. The relevant question is, what tactics work best in growing a movement and winning popular support? And this is why I say a lot of us come to nonviolence not because of some like religious conviction, because we think it's more morally pure, what have you. We're doing it because it's strategic. We're doing it because this is how you build a movement and you get popular support on your side. It's about strategy. It's not about ethics for a lot of people. It's not about morals for a lot of people. And it doesn't have to be that black and white, right? It can be some combination of both of them. So here, the philosophical definition of what constitutes violence is largely irrelevant. What matters is the response of the public at large to any tactic that we use. Whether the wider society in which a societal movement exists judges an action to be violent and how it reacts as a result. From a strategic perspective, which tactics are classified as violent or nonviolent is determined by public perception, not by the outcome of any abstract debate. Once a movement accepts that gaining broad popular backing is essential to its success, a strong argument can be made for the effectiveness of maintaining strict nonviolent discipline. The cultural context of your resistance movement really matters. The perception of the society in which you are attempting to resist fascism really, really matters. Our goal here is not to win some philosophical debate, it's to win popular support, to get overwhelming support for our cause, to get more people plugged in and involved. So when you're looking at a culture like France, where they have a long-standing tradition of a very different kind of protest than we do in the United States, when you're looking at cultures that don't have kind of an extreme support of capitalism and really, I don't want to say venerate, but really have a weird attachment to physical objects and possessions, and the culture often values those over people, honestly, especially Black and brown people. You're gonna make different choices about smashing shit because our goal here is to win over everybody. A fascist regime can't actually stay in power without the support of the people. It's one of the reasons I'm so confident that Donald Trump is the days of that regime are numbered, because he's so deeply unpopular and so many people are opposed to what he's doing. He doesn't have the consent of the governed, not even fucking close. He never did. He never had a majority of people supporting him in this country, and he's more unpopular than ever. And our job is to build support for our movement. We have to engage those people who are a little bit checked out, a little bit apathetic, not really plugged in yet. They definitely don't support Trump. We're trying to get those people to our side. And the way that we alienate them is that we engage in violence and we smash shit. Unfortunately, that's the attitude in the US, right? So we want these people to see us as who we truly are, which is like reasonable, ordinary, everyday Americans. And we want them to correctly, appropriately assess the regime as violent, extreme, out of control. And they're like, we don't want to align ourselves with these out of control extremists who are highly oppressive and brutal. No, we want to align ourselves with decent, normal, everyday Americans. That's how we build the movement. That's how we get all of the popular support on our side. So yes, while I agree with you on a philosophical level for having an abstract debate, smashing shit is not violence. Property damage when done by an oppressed group is not violence. But we have to think tactically and we have to operate in the real world with a set of conditions that are in front of us, not some debate that we're having in an academic circle. We are resisting fascism in our real lives in the context of American society.